Hello YouTube, iFixItAll here, Team iFixItAll. Raised garden beds, let's be honest. The materials you use to form your containment system. I'll let certain facts speak to themselves. So, have you ever gone out to your car on a sunny day and opened the door and got in? And it's too hot, okay? You have a metal container being beat down on by the sun. If you have a metal trough full of dirt and its color is supposedly reflective like silver, but just the idea of it being metal, microbes and parasites and worms and ants and bugs and so on and so forth, that's not good for the microbial balance inside your raised garden bed. You're creating like a crock pot scenario, but instead of cooking from the inside out, it's cooking your dirt from the outside in. How about a plastic container? It's a material made in such a way that it has no choice but to get warm when the sun beats on it. And that could be an advantage or disadvantage depending on what zone you live in. Plastic raised containers, sun beats down on them. You're probably, from an ecological standpoint, watering your ass off, keeping that dirt moist, because you have a boat ton of evap going on. To prove the point I'm trying to make here, get yourself a moisture meter. I have done a YouTube on it. If you scroll backwards on my videos, we'll walk over here and take a look. I bought two of these. One is temperature and another one's moisture. No, one's pH. Soil pH tester, and then moisture. Alright, so I had a problem one day because I decided to try to understand, how do I know in a raised garden bed when do I need water? A lot of you can look at the top of your raised garden beds and see that you need water, but have you ever asked yourself why? And then have you ever asked yourself, how do you retain it? Are you putting items in your raised garden bed that retain moisture, like chunks of wood or mulch? What I learned was, I learned I was overwatering, because I was very amazed at how much water I didn't have to add, and it was fixing my tomato plant issues where they were yellowing at the bottoms. I was overwatering because I would say, okay, it's been a couple of days, time to water. Okay, it's been a couple more days, time to water. I have so much moisture retention in the raised garden beds that I could ride out a serious, lengthy drought. Back to the materials used. Think about what is heat, a heat mitigator. Like, I used these feed sacks that are stapled to the interior sidewalls of the raised garden beds, and I chose white because in the desert and in the Arabic parts of the world, the color white keeps you cooler. And the idea here was to try to figure out a way to get the dirt that's above grade to, temperature-wise, connect with the planet. That temperature delta, keep that delta as low as possible, the difference of ground temperature to raised garden bed temperature. The bottom of my raised garden beds have about 12 inches of hay that I'm sure now is compressed down to probably 1.5 inches, but nevertheless, on top of that is mulch, and on top of that is dirt, and on top of that is, it went hay, then that mulch that's over there, then it was manure, then it was topsoil. Yeah. The container that you use, let's imagine that wheelbarrow, for instance. How many times have you seen a antique wheelbarrow used as a flower pot out in the front yard? It doesn't take very long before that soil dries out. Why? Because the air is getting underneath it. The ambient outside air temperatures breezing across it. The sun's beating on it, heating up the side walls. Evap is occurring. The materials of your container will drive how much labor you will have in adding and continuously maintaining your moisture numbers in the soil to keep your plants happy. So this is why I'm not against or for, I'm not speaking against or for anyone else growing a garden other than I feel like I don't think anyone out there can produce video evidence that if they go out there on a sunny day, on a sunny summer day, and stick a thermometer an inch or so off the sidewall of their metal container or their plastic container and drop a thermometer down in there, I'll bet no one can produce a video that shows those temperatures are low. Meaning, on a day for me, if it's like 90 degrees outside, I can temperature read my dirt, and it's going to be in the mid-60s. I'm hard-pressed to hit 72 degrees in those raised garden beds. Hard-pressed, even if it's 95 out. I have a thermometer in there right now. It's February, so it's not really fair. It's a warm day right now, but I was monitoring temperature because I know that on a microbial level, even the little microscopic little bugs and things, they're still creating a climate in that dirt that's producing nutrients for your plants. But as soon as you turn your raised garden bed into something that could mimic nothing short of a microwave, you're killing bacteria. You're causing the earthworms that live there to want to become refugees and get the hell out of Dodge. Your active pests that are living inside your dirt is actually the godsend to the health and condition of your soil. So I could not believe how much I didn't have to water last year. I was so blown away by the differences in growing in bare earth and then spending several weeks imagining all of the different scenarios to build this in such a way where it took labor off of me and created a scenario where the raised garden beds need the least amount of maintenance. There's hardly no work in what we have going on right now, and I cannot say that, or can't stress it more. For some darned reason, the hardest part was building this stuff. But now it's as simple as put in a plant. I don't even hoe anymore. I might bring some dirt around some tomato plants, but I don't even hoe anymore. I make sure that when I set like a broccoli plant or something, I go a little deeper. I go kind of deep. That way it can root in and the wind doesn't blow them over. Occasionally there might be a weed or two that pops up. And I say weed or two, I mean, as you're casually walking along, you can just pluck out a weed here or there. The materials you choose, think about thermal theories, thermal reflection, thermal absorption. The materials you use can contribute to the health of your garden. I don't know what I don't know yet about raised garden beds. I just know that I wish I'd been doing it all my life. An earlier video, would I have done anything differently? Someone with a real brilliant mind, one of the things I would have done differently, and this is to a friend of ours, pre-bend that arch before you set these hoops in. But somebody out there made a comment that what I can do, or what I could have done, was tie wire the arch from there's the peak of the radius, come down a little ways, tie wire from there over to there, pull it in, and keep doing that all the way down, just tie wire from here to there to pull the entire system inboard. And then go along with I got a torch that hooks up to a propane tank over there, and it kills weeds, but he had asked that I should go along the very peak of that and torch it and heat it till it's glowing red. Heat the entire peak. The tie wire has it pulled in, then you heat the peak of the arch and then let it cool down, then take the tie wires off, and that would like heat bend it. Back on topic, the materials you use will drive how much labor you're going to end up pushing yourself into. This is why I chose natural colors for the containers, natural colors. White is not necessarily an unnatural color. You have whites that are in limestones and all that, but the white bags I know would do a lot of heat. It won't absorb much heat. That helps keep whatever's in the white item cooler. And then the wood itself, and choosing pallets actually allows an extra degree of temperature regulation. Instead of being fully contained with dark wood, the gaps in the pallets are adding to a ventilation ingredient that I didn't think of until recently, because I was very interested in trying to understand why is my soil temperatures are staying so beautifully in the boundaries of what's acceptable on this design. I don't want to use plastic containers, and I don't want to use metal containers, because radiation from the sun is going to cause you to have to consume more water, which means you have to go out there and apply the water or do it in an automation way. And if for any other sake, a self-sufficiency aspect, if you're running that water by way of electricity from your power company without any kind of DC backup water pumping mechanism, how useful is your garden to you if you can't get to water? And then how useful is your garden if it can't retain water? At the very least, anybody who's interested in water retention, get yourself a moisture detector. We have a pH and a moisture, but try to understand what your raised garden beds are telling you as far as their water needs. Because you might be underwatering, you might be overwatering, but the container you're using might be the root cause as to why you're consuming the volume of water that you are consuming. The evaporation rate out of a raised garden bed is going to be reduced greatly if you have a material that's mingled in that dirt that holds moisture. And good old-fashioned chunks of wood and corn stalks, you name it, anything that's going to absorb water and hold it, it isn't going to evap off as quick. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. See ya.